Live. Welcome. How are you guys doing today? I am feeling much better. I am ready to work on the project. I have not worked on it at all. I said I was going to press it during the week, and that's absolutely not going. Didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And that's okay, because there's a lot that goes into pressing as you sew. Everybody says, press as you sew, press as you sew. What does it mean to press as you sew? Iron is your best friend if you want your sewing to look halfway decent and or amazing. When I first started, it wasn't a big deal, but I have been sewing a lot lately, and I feel like I iron more than I actually sew, because if I do that step, the sewing step goes really quickly and easy, and I'm not fighting my project. And so I am going to take you guys through all the steps that I have to do to press the green cape so that it looks nice. Right now it's kind of frumpy. It really needs to be pressed. I remember I helped my aunt. She was sewing a mother of the bride matching tops for her and her, would it be her mother-in-law, her son's mother-in-law? Anyways, and she wanted me to help with the pattern. She was like, it's just not looking right. And the thing is she did a really good job sewing, and she picked the right measurements. Granted, her shoulders were slightly narrower, and she could have taken that and but not that big of a difference. You know what I mean? Like, I would have probably done it, but it's now that it's finished, it's not a big deal. All I really did to help her fix it was press them really nicely, and it just looked next level. It's like, it makes a big difference. And it's not always the easiest or the most fun part or the glamorous part about sewing, but it's the secret. People who do very good tailoring and sewing will invest in a drip iron. I do not have a drip iron because I prefer to be cordless than super hot. Like, I need a dedicated drip iron station, and I'm not, like, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's something I might possibly still want. But I have a giant press, and I love my cordless iron. And so I make choices. But a steam iron, those things are amazing to work with because they work really fast and well. And so when you're doing a lot of pressing, the right tool for the job makes the job significantly easier. But yes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I wanted to do double welted pockets. They're not pockets because there's no pocket. It's just a slat. Double welted slits in the cape. But I kind of want to do a practice one so I don't screw up my finished design. If I had done a toile or a twill or a practice garment first, I probably would have figured that out on that, which would have been the smart way to go about things, but it's okay. I'm going to practice just the double welted slits on just a piece of scrap fabric. I have tons of scrap fabric. I have no excuses not to do a practice one of those. But that is the plan for today. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Hello, Dan Does Junk. Hello, Michael Schnell and Will Connors. Welcome to the live stream. Glad you guys can make it. I got Duncan Hines brownie batter creamer, and that stuff is like how I want chocolate milk to taste. You know what I mean? I always add at least twice the amount of scoops that they say per milk to get the right chocolatiness, and it's never quite enough. I think it's because they don't make it dark enough. Anyways, that brownie batter creamer is really chocolatey, and I appreciate it. Okay. Let me turn on the iron and add some more water. Don't run away. Oops, mess. Steam is your friend. Also have, this is starch water. It's mostly water, but there is definitely starch in it, but it's very helpful to have starch. And the cape. Let me point out a few things that we have to handle before we start really pressing. If we look at the back of this cape, I don't know if you guys can really see it, but see how the lining is pulling out? Probably see it better on this side. This is the collar, this is the lining, this is the actual fashion fabric, and you shouldn't be able to see the lining. I never clipped that curve, so there are layers pulling against that seam, making that happen. I also can understitch that seam to keep that from happening. And then also, so clipping, understitching, and pressing will all fix what is happening right here. So I wanted to point out that this is what I'm kind of, when I say I'm fighting it, this is what I'm fighting. What's fighting me? The narrower curve that is the seam allowance to the curve that we want to be finished. The seam allowance doesn't want to be this shape. It wants to be its shape. So we have to add little slits, and it'll release the pressure, and we won't be fighting each other anymore. So that is one thing. This collar, of course, needs to be pressed again. This was not stored on a hanger. It was just stored in a bag because I didn't want it hanging and really remembering this shape. I want to not stretch things out, if that makes sense. But so I need to press this nice and clean, and these seams, they really need to be pressed. The right side split open and then pressed outside so that they're not so floofy and bulky. So first thing I have to do is turn this whole project back to inside out, because it was like, this is the right way it should be, but we got to take care of that curve first before we can be back out here. So inside, outside, inside, outside. So we already clipped the corners. Oh, I kind of did clip this. It's still fighting me though. I think I really need to understitch it. And you know, do I need wedges or slits? Because a concave versus a convex curve, this is where you have to like flip the pattern pieces in different directions. Okay, so this is a concave curve, and when I flip it, they're gonna all want to spread. I think this should be fine, but I should debulk this seam a little bit. All right, I'm glad I already started doing the slitting of this curve, but obviously it wasn't enough because it's showing signs that it needs more. So just because you did the right step doesn't mean it was enough. And it's okay. All right, I'm going to trim out this cotton layer, like as close to the seam allowance without cutting through the seam allowance, so I can get as much of that bulk out of there. I want to keep the outside fabric long, and this acetate, this lining fabric, it shreds so easily. I do not want to cut that anymore or cut into that seam because I don't want a shredded seam with that fabric. But this cotton definitely can debulk that and get that out of there, and especially since it's on the inner layer, it'll make a big difference in flipping the seam. It's just especially around the neck curve because we want that curve to lay the right way. And I think understitching will really help. Okay, good. I have green right there. I just switched out the thread in my machine to have, it has red in my sewing machine right now. And I'm like, I can't get away with using red on this project. White, perhaps. No, not on for the understitching because you'd see it. It definitely needs to be green. Oh, the iron is hot. "45th Clown, it's a lovely lining when it hits the light, unless my eyes are playing tricks." Yes, it is a floral. Would it be a damask? Or it has a floral print woven into the design, and it is very subtle, but it is very pretty, and I really do like the lining. Lining is probably never going to be seen by anybody but the wearer, but I like those little details. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be so covered in this. Michael Snow, you like my fancy decanter? Thank you. I needed a bottle for my water, and that one was pretty, so I got that one. Let's see if this helps. Don't really want to trim the silk layer. I could trim back some of the felt because, not felt, the wool, because that is pretty, it doesn't unravel and it's pretty tough, but it's my outside fabric, so I want that one to be there. So let me see if this lays better. Turn it outside, inside, outside, inside. But we're going to turn it back inside out, but I just want to see how the curve is handling it. Because I think I really do need to understitch this. That is a very bulky seam, but I think, because I feel the difference between where I didn't cut it and where I did. So I think I really need to press that, and then I need to understitch it. And understitching is going to hold it right where it needs to go. Okay. Back to inside out so I can start pressing. Iron's finally hot, and I'm going to turn down the heat. I turned it all the way up to get it hot faster. That's not really how it works, but feels like it would work that way. But the cotton can take it, the wool can take it, the acetate, it'll melt. It's synthetic. Synthetic as it comes. It's a delicate fabric. All right. Oh, I have to get all the layers to line up because I am pressing. I don't want to press a crease into it. I want to make sure that I am just making it as pretty as I possibly can. Right. I'm really only pressing the seam allowance. Right now, I'm pressing it flat. I'm not changing the shape of it. I just going right over my stitching lines as if I just sewn it, I would then be pressing it just like this, closed. Kind of like melting the stitches together, but technically they're fine. And then I want to press everything to one side. So I'm going to push all my seam allowance to I'm going to press all my seam allowances all to the underside where the lining is, so that when I flip it inside out, I can then, that's where I'm going to stitch it, and I want it to stay towards the lining side so that it doesn't pull out and so it doesn't get seen from the outside when you're wearing it. So just the seam, not the whole, not any of the rest of it, just the seam and the seam allowance. You don't really want to be getting the whole cape yet. We're focusing on all the sewing from the other day. Yes, Michael Schnell, yes, smoosh it and yes, smoosh it. Michael Schnell. I bought some jeans recently that are a little too long and baggy. Is it worth paying to have them altered? I would say yeah. Honestly, if you're finding good fabrics, quality fabrics, things that are comfortable, colors and styles you like, I 100% believe it's worth it to go get things altered to fit you, because when things fit you, it looks 100% better. When they're baggy, when it looks like you're wearing your dad's suit, it looks like you're wearing your dad's suit, kind of a thing. Things you can't change the shoulder to shoulder on a suit, so if the shoulders are way too wide, it's not worth it, kind of a thing. But pants, hemming and taking in bagginess, heck yeah, that's an easy enough thing that you could do with a stapler, see how you like it, wear it around, and then get it permanently done. So yes, I think it is 100% worth it. I think the prices people charge you for alterations are 100% worth it, because here's the secret. I absolutely hate hemming pants. I absolutely hate it, because people are like, oh, you sew. Can you hem my pants? No. First of all, it's too boring. I can't get my brain to focus on it. It's just going to sit in a corner looking at me going, why? But it's super easy, and it doesn't take very long. You just have to sit and do it and then make sure they match. And it's a skill totally worth learning to do for yourself. But no, it's completely worth it to bring them in, drop them off, say, hey, can you make them a couple inches shorter? I think it's worth the time, energy, because custom fit, it's the fit of clothing, especially for menswear. Yeah. Get a thrifted suit altered to your sizing. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to look better than if you bought a brand new suit that's just slightly off. But yes, get things sized to you. Okay, let me see. I feel like I'm really fighting this curve because it's bulky, but it's... Because we're live, I got panicked because it's steaming, iron steam. This way. Before I turn it inside out, let me press my other seams flat and open, so then I can do... There's a lot of pressing that needs to happen, and I don't want to keep flipping inside out and inside out, and might as well just press it as I go. It's amazing how pretty the seam looks as soon as it just gets a flat pressing. I'm thinking. My ironing board is a tiny ironing board, and I'm wondering if I could slide it inside so that I can get that seam. But that's exactly what an anvil's for. But my anvil's over there. But I also have my ham that I could do the same thing. I don't think my clapper would work. What am I talking about? Clapper, ham, anvil. These are all pressing tools. Timber. It only sounded worse than it really was. I had my Ryobi bag on top of one of those clear containers that hold craft supplies. And so that it was a big empty one of those, so it sounded loud when it hit the ground, but it's not a scary mess. I thought it would be. We good. Okay? So anyways, clapper. Clapper is a fancy thing for a chunk of wood that fits in your hand so that instead of burning your fingers when you're pressing things to keep them flat, this will hold them. So clapper is a very important tool when we're working specifically with seams because we want them to lay flat and stay flat, and that helps. This is a ham. It's called a ham because it's the shape of a ham that you would buy at the grocery store. Like the deli meats, I suppose. This is great for curves like shoulders, boobs, hips, etc. It's kind of a bigger curve, but we need that. So that is what this is for. They're usually wool. They can take the heat, and they're meant for ironing. An anvil. I really want to use mine, but mine's broken. So I probably am not going to use it, but it's right here. So let me go grab it. 2 seconds. Told you mine was broken. This is the board that it goes on. These are the screws. There's a piece that screws onto this, and they screw in and out so that you can store it, but I need to reinforce these holes, but it has just a little wooden piece that looks like an anvil that comes up off of this. I swore I saw it this morning, and it's just the width of a seam allowance, so it's this wide, so you can slide it up in there and just iron the seam allowance, which is extremely helpful when you have delicate fabrics and you want a nice crisp seam, not seam. So anvil, ham, clapper. Now you know, and I can use those terms without having to be like, ham, okay? I think I'm going to use the ham. Because now, once the seam has been pressed nice and flat, see how these seams are pressed nice and flat? That's what I want to do to these edge seams that I just got. And I'm going to slide that ham in there. Even though this is a straight line, I can still press on it and press these nice open and flat. And then I'll go on the outside and press them again. A lot of pressing, but it really, really makes a big difference in the way things lay, look, and feel. And then top stitching helps too. My Michael Snell, I haven't ironed a shirt in a long time. I usually just hang it out right after washing and drying. Should I be pressing them more? Good question. I personally use a steamer because steam does an amazing job at getting wrinkles out, and on set, I really don't have time for a good pressing, and a steamer will do the job in a jiffy. So I highly recommend everybody having a steamer, an at-home steamer. Those things are amazing. But the benefit of ironing your shirt is that you can use starch. What is starch? Starch is a sizing agent, a technical term for giving structure and support. So you want a nice crispy shirt that looks brand new and crispy perfect. A little bit of starch in your water when you're ironing your shirt will make it look nice and pressed and look, quote unquote, impressive. So the benefit of ironing your shirts is that you can use starch, and then you can get a crispier, sharper look. So like learning how to iron your shirt can really level up your dressing game. But steaming is a valid option. Hanging up to, like, not wrinkles is a great option. I love wrinkle release spray. That stuff is amazing. It makes your clothes smell like fresh. Don't use it on dirty clothes, but like something that's been hanging in the closet. And then you just kind of pull things on the bias and the wrinkles come right out. So that honestly works. But if you want a really crisp look for your dress shirt or a button-up shirt or a collared shirt, a little starch when you iron will really go a long way. So see how it's hot on that seam and I'm putting my fingers down to smoosh it? That's what this is for, to not burn my fingers. Anyways, that's the whole point. 45th Clown. In UK, I'd say go to the dry cleaners for alterations. Mine have a traveling tailor, and they sometimes work in the shop window. Yes, no, totally. Dry cleaners, even in the United States, best, easiest. Like, they have alterations. It's totally worth it. Totally worth it. You can get a sleeve shortened, narrowed, get things fitted to you better. When things fit, they look great, and it's not like... I'd save money, get a cheaper shirt, and get it tailored to you than spending more on a more expensive shirt that not getting it tailored. But do I do that? No, I do my own stuff, and then I don't buy projects. Anyways. I swear they make men's clothes the most adjustable, easy to work with as they possibly can. Like in pants, they always leave the extra so you can let out pants. They don't do that really with ladies' clothes as much. Not Top, welcome. Is starch water spray better than spray can starch? I like spray can starch. It's $1. It's done. You spray it and you go. Starch that you add water to or starch to your water. You can control the ratio of how. So a 50-50 blend will give you. It's pretty darn crunchy. So you can go more or less. And so if you really want to starch the heck out of something like this to give it more stability, like a collar or something like that, you can go a little more crazy on your starch levels when you buy the liquid starch and you add your own water. And I think it's technically cheaper because you get more starch. It's like buying concentrate. But spray starch works great. I don't hate spray starch. That stuff is... Don't get ironing spray. Okay? Sometimes it happens. Okay? working in the wedding dresses, it's the first time I noticed that ironing spray and spray starch are not the same thing, because it wasn't working. Why is this stuff suck? It will get the wrinkles out. The sprays the wrinkles out, but it doesn't get crunchy. It doesn't hold its shape. It doesn't act the same as starch. It's because it's a fabric conditioner, and it doesn't act the same way as spray starch. So, gotta be careful. Make sure that you're actually buying starch. But ironing spray is not the same thing. Almost there. Let me get to the corner. I keep getting distracted, but it's okay. You guys are asking very good questions. But I haven't even used the spray yet. I had a teacher in fashion school tell me, he was the visual merchandising teacher, and he worked as a visual merchandiser at the Nordstrom's in the area. He's really good, and I really appreciated his talents. He was like, make friends with the tailors, because they know how to iron, and everything looks so much better when it's been professionally pressed. Truer words have not been spoken. It's like, you want something to look, it really does take a little bit of elbow grease and some ironing. I want to do this a little nicer, you know. Can't get the corner with the ham. It's not gonna work. I shouldn't be ironing this close to my drink. I'll have to put it on the other side. So chocolatey. That's only one edge. That's okay. We still going all the way around the whole circumference. But now this side is been pressed out, and when I flip it inside out, it'll be so much easier to smoosh it flat and know that I'm actually where I need to be. Michael Snow, where do you get your fabric? That is a very good question. Let's start with this project that I have right here. This cotton interlining is drop cloth. It is a painter's tarp from Harbor Freight. It's 100% natural cotton. It's a basic weave, and it is leftover fabric from when I made Jedi ponchos with Odin. So that's my interlining. The lining, this pretty green with the floral print, this lovely acetate, is from my mom's stash. She was clearing out her stash and was getting rid of fabrics, and that is a clearing out my mom's stash fabrics, as well as that crazy hot pink floral print number going right there. Mom's stash, painter's tarp. This green wool that's super lovely and I absolutely love is from a local fabric store called World Class Textiles. They are amazing to work with. They're locally owned, family operated. For better or worse, it's completely a hole in the wall, but that's one of the charms about it that I absolutely love. So if you're ever in the Sacramento area, check out World Class Textiles. Also, Min Fat Fabrics is my favorite hole in the wall fabric store. But World Class is twice the size of Min Fat Fabrics. And then High Fashion Fabrics is across the street from World Class Fabrics. And High Fashion Fabrics has the prettiest things, the best trends, but it isn't as cheap. But it's also a locally owned fabric store. I haven't bought fabric from Joann's fabric store in a decade, it feels like. Not because I don't love Joann's. I absolutely love they exist, and I do shop from them. But it's really been a long time since I've actually purchased fabric because I have been sewing other people's projects. I haven't really done my own in a while, and since I've been doing a lot of my own, I've been going through a lot of my stash. And I got a lot of my stash as a hand-me-down from my mom because she's really good at finding deals and thrifted fabrics and vintage things that are, all those fabrics that are so great that you want to hold on to, but you don't want to waste on a crappy project. Part of me is like, did I waste this fabric on this dress? Because I used up every last little bit of it. And I do love it, but it didn't turn out the way I envisioned it in my head. Part of me thinks I should have probably gone with a go-go dress, like a short little mini go-go dress with big sleeves. But I'm really excited about the thing that I'm going to wear this to. So, I do like it. But, there's always that in the back of my head. Did I waste the fabric on this project? Oh my gosh, I have the silver fabric upstairs that is like this crazy paisley print, and when I first saw the fabric, I was like, this is perfect for a men's ditto suit or a pirate jacket with like the big cuffs, because it's a really masculine paisley silver print. It's really fancy. But then I was wanting to make a bias cut dress, and I'm like, this fabric would be great for that. But am I wasting it if I use it on a bias cut dress when it's such a great costume fabric? Sewing and collecting fabric to sew are two different hobbies. But you just smoosh it and you smoosh it, and smoosh it and you smoosh it. So I source my fabrics from free sources like my mother, hand-me-downs, I haven't done really bed sheets in a while or anything like that. It's been a minute. I did use a green screen to make Tinkerbell. And I have some curtains, like these black blackout curtains that I was thinking of using for my road on this project. I'm not going to press the bottom seam open yet because I may rip that open. But let me do this other side. 45th Clown, no, you didn't waste the fabric. It looks amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. But these are the things in the back of your head. Did I wait? When you're cutting it, you're like, ooh. This is the dress. It was supposed to be haltered in the back like it is in the front. But I had my iron set to 3 because I was being impatient to get it hot, and I didn't think about it and just put it right on the fabric and burnt a hole in it right as I was kind of finishing everything up. So it ended up being a low back, and honestly, I like it better, and I feel like Bob Ross with those happy little accidents. But yeah. You just smoosh it, and then it looks amazing. And I was just thinking about that. I know it's really boring watching me just kind of smoosh this flat, but it makes the biggest difference in the whole wide world when it comes to this brush. Something to, you know. Okay, now I have to press this seam open, and I wonder if I use the clapper in there. Yeah, I could do this big old project on this teeny tiny ironing board because I'm only pressing the seams. I'm not ironing the whole thing. I'm not steaming it out. I'm not smooshing everything around, messing with the weave of everything. I'm really only getting the seams. Got to finger press them first so that they kind of hold their shape. Whoop. Oh dang it, I have my clapper on the inside so I can't use it. You know, I like the hand better. I know it's slightly curved of a surface, but I can really press it, and I like using my clapper for its intended purposes. This is... Okay, let's do it. All right. Michael Snell, I want to order a specific print from Spoonflower so I can make a simple bag, but they have about 2 dozen fabric choices. How do I decide what is best? That is a really good question. So, you're making a simple bag. Do you want a drawstring bag, or do you what is the purpose of this bag? Does it need to have structure and support? Does it need to be flexible? These are all kind of questions that you want. Whether you want a heavy duty upholstery fabric, do you want a velvet? Do you want, I would not recommend anything silky or shiny or satiny and slippery unless it's for the lining, because the lining being slippery and shiny would be great. But if you want to make it an easy bag, I would start with something cotton. Where is it? It's in the other room. I have a fabric swatch book of... It has basic fabrics. It has their weaves, the different filaments, the different fibers, whether it's cotton, polys, knits, wovens, and it is very well organized. I think having a swatch book of fabric really helps when you're ordering fabrics online, whether you're, okay, do I want a shantung or a charmeuse? No, let's say organza or a chiffon. Organza, chiffon, what are these fancy words? What do they mean? Organza has a crunch to it and a chiffon has a drape to it, but otherwise they look the same when you're looking at pictures. They could be the same shade of yellow, they could be the same sheerness and drapiness, and they could be the same fiber content, but one's going to have a drape to it and one's going to have a crunch to it. So having a fabric swatch book is very, very helpful when you want to order online fabrics, so that you have the terminology and the verbiage to order exactly what you want. So if you want a jersey knit, you know what jersey knit you're getting and you can order it easier. I still prefer to buy fabric in fabric stores, but I have really great resources near where I am at that I can go in, feel the fabrics, get an idea of what it's going to be like, walk in, find exactly what I want. But ordering from a site like Spoonflower, which is really great, because I really like that you can get your customized individual prints. That's really I highly recommend it to people all the time. I have not ordered from them yet myself, but I've almost done it quite a few times and then didn't have the time, so had to come up with other solutions. But yeah, you kind of have to decide the features of what you want, and then if you don't necessarily have the right bag fabric for the kind, if you want a more structured bag and you got a floppy silky fabric, you can always iron it to an interfacing, especially fusible interfacing, and add more structure and support, and then treat that as the fabric. So you can also modify your fabrics to turn into, to give them the properties you want. Okay. Did the neck hole, I did both sides. I'm not pressing the bottom open, I just pressed it flat. So I think I'm ready to turn it inside out. Oh well, if I'm not, I can always turn it right back outside in. Michael Snell, sorry for all the questions. No, these are great questions. They're on topic and I can geek out about them, so ask away. Yes, Dan does. Strong questions are good, especially good questions. There's no such thing as a bad question. Yes, there are. That's a little bulky. Stopped a little soon on this curve, edge of the curve. So I'm trimming out the extra bulk that I can get out of that. Okay, let's try this again. I'm like, why is this feeling weird? I'm going between the wrong layers. Let's try this again. Where's my, there we go. It's throwing me off. What's wrong? There's lots of layers to this. I knew I just saw the anvil. Okay, so this is an anvil. So the holes in it have been stripped, but I know that's not an impossible fix. But see, it looks like an anvil, and see how it has this point that's this tip that's a little pointy, and this is the width of the seam allowance. It's so you can slide it in and get the seam allowance. The only reason I'm not using this one is because it's not a stable. Like, I really need to just fix it. But it's a great tool because I can literally just get the part that I'm trying to get. But this is what an anvil looks like, a sewing anvil. And it has these so that it's easier to store flat, but it's just been stripped. Needed to put like the super glue with the baking soda or whatever, the ROM in there, and just refill those holes and then re-drill them, or just wood fill it. But so you flip these right sides out. Michael Schnell, I wanted to start with a simple drawstring bag, like a dice bag. Would a simple cotton be fine? Yes. My dream is to make a canvas bag, but I know I have a long way to go. Canvas? No, that's super easy. Go for canvas. Don't be afraid. The tarp from, whatchamacallit, Harbor Freight, those are really cheap. They're canvas. That's what canvas is a raw, heavy-duty cotton. It's really easy to work with. Start with that, you know? And yes, a basic cotton for a drawstring, that would be the perfect fabric to start with because it's a good, easy, beginner-friendly cotton or fabric that old machines and new machines like working with. It's not going to fight you in the sewing machine. Silky fabrics are not very beginner-friendly because they do like to fight in the sewing machine. Sometimes you think, why? I'm just really terrible at sewing. No, you're just fighting your fabric right now. Just take a deep breath, walk away, and come back. The fabric's difficult, you know? So, cottons, canvas, denims. I know they sound so scary. Super easy to work with. The only reason I don't think leather is super beginner friendly is because you can't really rip out the seams. So, like, you have to be kind of sure about what you're doing with leather because once you poke a hole, the hole's always going to be there. But with canvas, with a basic cotton or cotton poly fabrics, like quilting fabrics, those things are great. They can take the heat, you can iron them, you can press the seams, and then they look really crispy and they look really impressive. So yes. Okay. I don't have my bone folder, but I will just use my scissors. Shh, don't use the scissor tips. It goes, you can stab through your fabric. It happens really easily, but I'm in the wrong side. That's why it's... Michael Snell, do bags need liners? No, technically they do not need liners, but remember how I told you that for things to be professionally done, you need to finish your seams. For things to look impressive, you need to have finished seams. Liners are a way of finishing your seams. They seem super impressive and really scary and intimidating, but they're a really easy way to finish seams, especially when you have a lot of layers like I do. But you could just zigzag over the edges of your seams. You could use pinking shears. You can do French seams. There's lots of fancy ways to do it, but no, you do not need to line your bag. Can you line your bag? Yes. Are there benefits or disadvantages? Yes, yes, and no. You can also self-line your bag, so you make your rectangle and you flip it anyways. Yeah, there's lots of ways to handle that problem. There's a million ways to solve it, but they're all fun. Fun problems. Okay. I'm doing a lot of the ironing with my hands right now because I'm smooshing it to where I want to press it. And then when I iron it, it will hold it there. But you smoosh it and you smoosh it. And you smoosh it. Smoosh it and you smoosh it. Yeah. Maybe when this project's done, I'll do a little drawstring bag live. I have this Majora's, is that how you say Majora's Mask? Zelda fabric with link all over it. And it's a great little cotton print. And I was like, this would make a good drawstring bag, but I don't really know what I need it for. And I don't need it for anything, but it sounds like a fun basic project. Dan does junks. Do bags need liners? I would say yes. I still would say not necessarily. Gotta finish your edges though. I mean, yeah, finish your seams so it doesn't. All right, now that I finger pressed it, I can use the iron and the steam. So I want to make sure that I'm I want to see the stitches, you know, like pull it so that it's as flat can be. And then I want to press it because I don't want to press the fold. Yeah, I want to be right on that edge. Michael Chanel. You totally should make a Majora's Mask bag. I love the tutorial, and not everything you need to make needs to have a purpose, right? No, I 100% agree with that. A lot of things that I've been making lately don't necessarily have a purpose. Right now I'm working on this. It was a little vintage 50s top that ties with 2 bows in the back. But then I found out that I did have more fabric than I thought I did. And so I'm going to add a skirt. Do I need this? Is it for anything? No. Am I just making it? Will I wear it around? Probably, but not necessarily. It's just kind of playing because I'm practicing a lot of my pattern drafting. It's been a minute. It's not been a minute. It really hasn't. But I have been doing a lot of flat patterning where I just take the numbers and I turn them into patterns, because I can take numbers from all over the world and then turn them into a garment and give it back to you, and then it fits, you know? So numbers work great. But since I've been sewing for myself a lot lately, I have been just kind of I put my measuring tape away and just kind of been drafting and patterning and figuring it out. And so I came up with a new bodice block. And so I've been kind of playing with that and seeing, you know, what shapes I'm trying to actually, you know, why I'm following what rules. You got to know what the rules are so you know how to break them. And I've been following so many rules that's like, why do I follow these rules? Oh yeah, that's why. Like it. Definitely appreciating pressing. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a nice top stitch around the center front. I think that'll look really pretty, especially with the double welted pockets with a little stud. Look at how clean that edge looks. So much prettier. This is the not ironed side. See how kind of it looks? And then the press side, this versus this. Very nice. Needs a little help, right? I know the strings can go. It'll look much better already. But see how it's really not laying as nice as this is laying. Really pretty. So you smoosh it and you smoosh it, and eventually it looks right. True story. Okay. Push out this corner. There we go. Crisp corners look good. I don't know where this thread came from. That needs to be trimmed. Okay. 45th Cloud. My first bag was a leather tote bag, unlined, Each side was 15.15 inches, 15.5 inches. Took all evening and to saddle stitch. I started looking at sewing for lining and found out I enjoyed it loads. Nice. I really do like working with leather. It is one of my favorite materials to work with. Like I said, the reason it's so intimidating is because like you don't have the wiggle room of error. Like you have to kind of know what you're doing once you start sewing because those holes are permanent. But it's easier to work with than most fabrics because it doesn't have a grain line that you have to be respectful of, so you don't have to work it out however it fits and on the stuff. But then you also have to think about the thickness of the leather, so it has its own little each fabric has its own personality and you have to get to know. They like to be treated different ways and worked with different ways, and you need to have different techniques but similar techniques. It's a lot and not that much at the same time, but instead of ironing it, you get to beat it with a hammer or rubber mallet. You smoosh it and you smoosh it. Look at how pretty this edge is now. Those edges are laying flat and nicely, but now let me get this neckline because this neckline is not laying nicely at all. It is not, it is not. Smoosh it and you smush it. I'm really trying to just focus on the seam and not like ironing the whole garment. I'll do that later. I'll pull out my steamer. It'll be beautiful. But right now, it is focusing on the seam. So, comparing sides, nice and crisp and laying flat. This side is still kind of lumpy and bumpy and not really holding its shape. So just taking your time and you smoosh it and use some heat to put the pressure on. It really does. And we're just focusing on the seams. We're not doing the whole garment. Might go now. Anvils, mallets, sewing. Sounds like Bugs Bunny cartoon. Yep. I just was wondering why everybody had so many anvils just hanging around. But then I realized I had several at my house growing up. My brother even took a little metalworking class in college and had a couple tiny little red anvils that looked almost comedic for jewelry making. Those things were cool. But I currently don't have any anvils at my house at the moment. No, besides the wooden one for ironing. Huh. Remember, hot things are hot. Don't touch the hot part. I'm choosing to use my ham instead of trying to do this flat on the ironing board because I'm going around a curve that's going to be on a neck and there's a shoulder in the way. So like I said, I'm just focusing on the seams. If I use the anvil, it's a straight line and it would just be the seams. So I'm using the ham to get the curves because I'm just focusing on pressing the seams so they lay the way they're supposed to. And not just... And then I can do my top stitching, my under stitching, and all the additional stitching that will make it look even crisper. But pressing goes a long, long, long way. Okay, whew. Do the center back right here. Put my two sides together. Definitely did this side better than this side, so I'll go back. Okay, whew. Let's see. It's laying a lot nicer and a lot flatter. But I definitely need to do the understitching. Okay. Turn this onto off mode for the moment. I'm going to press this thing a few times before it's done, but put this to the side for a second. Stay. Let's get this out of the way. Okay. Got tangled in the green thread earlier. Just wind this back on the bottom real quick. Can you guys hear how loud the iron is? Michael Snell, the ironing part seems to take just as long as the actual sewing, if not longer. Is that usually the case? Nobody talks about it. But ironing makes sewing go a whole lot faster, but it takes a whole lot longer because you're spending your time ironing. Press as you sew, press as you sew. Pressing takes forever and is a lot of the bulk of the sewing. So this is kind of why I like these live streams, so you guys don't see all the crap we cut out the invisible labor. How much just sitting there smooshing it. And it makes a big difference. Nobody notices. Like when you do your job really well, people don't notice that it's done. It's when it's like, why does that look messed? So, yes, the answer is ironing takes more. It takes more time to actual iron a product. Like you spend more time ironing, if not the same amount of time ironing as you do sewing. Even with the drawstring bag, even with quilting. Not necessarily with leather, but then you just beat it with a hammer, so it's different. Okay. Okay, let me move this hot steaming iron out of the way. You guys want to hear the sewing sounds, right? I really do like this shade of red. Okay. Oops. Moon Eyes 2K. There we go. Took 5 to 6 reloads, but I has arrived. Welcome, Moon Eyes. Your internet's not your friend lately. I feel you. Well, welcome. I'm glad you can make it. Okay, got green thread. I bet you I could thread this thing with my eyes blindfolded in my sleep. I have the muscle memory for the sewing machine. It's funny when you go from sewing machine to sewing machine, you don't realize that you have all this. You're self-trained. The invisible knee knocker, that one makes me laugh because I would go from work where we had knee knockers to home. And since they were the same basic models, but mine just didn't have a knee knocker, I would just... Yes, okay. I need to increase the stitch length because it's so bulky. It's lots of layers, thick fabrics, so multiple fabric layers in the seams. It gets bulky real quick. And the reason that we increase the stitch length when we have bulky fabrics is because if the stitch length didn't increase, you having to go up and over the bulky fabric will end up making you have a really tight stitch that's awful looking, difficult to rip out, and just it can get tangled. And you know, if you're fighting your sewing machine, that could be one of the issues. So doing a longer stitch length is your friend. So we're doing top stitch. It's a decorative stitch. We're going to see it, so we have to make sure that we have the right color thread. Can't play around with threads when we're top stitching. And yeah. James Hall. Hi, Felicia. Hi, James. How are you doing? Good morning. How are you? Oh, you have to see how the dress turned out that I ended up making from the leftover fabric from that red you gave me, James. It looks amazing. I have to show you. Not right now because it's upstairs, but I'll show you later. Michael Snow, what kind of table do I need for a sewing machine? Will any kind of table do? Yeah, any table will do. Desk, table. I love sewing on the floor personally, but because I do the live stream, I have to pretend that I'm a civilized human being. But yeah, it's just a sewing machine. You can put it anywhere. I need this. Okay, I'm gonna start at one side, go up and over and around, but first I'm gonna do my understitching. I'm going to go put my hand in the back layer. Sorry about that. All right, so what am I doing? My hand is, we have all these layers, and I have my outside fabric, my lining fabric, and my interlining fabric. I'm going between my outside fabric and all my other layers of fabric to the neckline, to this curve, and I'm going to put that through the sewing machine, and I am going to stitch on the inside, pulling all my seam allowance to this side, and I'm going to stitch along the little smile of my curve. I have to finagle that on my sewing machine. It looks crazy, so I figured I'd describe what I was doing before I started. But that is how we're going to understitch this. So, in through the bottom. All the way. Deep breath, because I don't want to screw this up. Because I don't want to have to do it twice. Okay. Let me get to where I want to be. Okay. I'm caught on the seam allowance. I'm going to start right here. What am I fighting? You guys can't see. I'm really trying to just put this in the right spot, and it's right in a corner, of course, you know. Always. Always, always, always. Okay. Large stitch length. Hey, Bruno, good morning. You want to come say hi? Come say hi. Say hi, everybody. You're like, I'm saying hi to you. Yeah? Okay. You want to help me sew? Okay, you can sew. Bruno's the best. No, easy. All right, buddy. I got to get right here. I am just trying to stitch right on the edge. You have breakfast. Okay, so I'm not trying to stretch this out. I'm just trying to follow right along the seam allowance, and I'm sewing all the seam allowance to the lining inside of this, so when you're wearing it, it always holds everything where it needs to be, and it's not going to keep slipping and showing the lining through to the front side. 100% a step you can skip, but you won't know why your thing isn't laying right. 45th clown. For sewing machine tables, don't use a coffee table with a small gap under it. The first day you get pedal wedged under it, it leads to minor pen attacks and bad words. That's hilarious. I love it. My sewing machine has you don't actually need the foot to sew if you didn't want to. But I can see how that would go. Okay. Smoosh, smoosh, smoosh. Smoosh. Navigate this curve. I'm really trying to just keep all the seam allowance laying flat. You're supposed to keep the bulk of the fabric on this side of the sewing machine, but when you're in the middle of a giant piece of fabric, it's okay. Hand sewing's always an option. I think that we forget about that because it seems like it's so labor intensive to hand sew, but I put in a couple zippers lately. One I use a sewing machine for, one I hand stitched in, and you think, oh, the hand stitch one, that one must be, yes, I did a really good job on it and it looks really impressive, but it was so much easier than using a sewing machine because you have a lot of control using a needle and thread in your hand, and it goes really quick sewing in a zipper by hand. It also goes really, if you know what you're doing, it goes really quick using a sewing machine too. But you have a lot of control doing hand sewing. And I feel like when I'm fighting a giant piece of fabric through a sewing machine, I don't necessarily, there's lots of ways to go about the same problem. And I feel like it's more impressive to have the hand sewn zipper, but I'm more impressive at the people who can sewing machine stitch in zippers really easily. Almost got this corner. Let's see how this turned out. Okay. Really long tails. That's okay. There's my understitching. Line those back up, get those shoulder seams back together. This corner back out. Now everything should pull the way it's supposed to and not pull towards the front. I still have to press the collar, but it's laying flat, there's no bumps, and now I can press it again. But I'm going to finish my top stitching and then I will I won't do any top stitching behind the collar. I think I'll only do the center fronts. And I'm not going to do the hem today because I still want to get in and out and be able to flip this just like, I'm not ready for the hem, but I'll do the front and the back. I mean the front openings. So I'm going to do some top stitching on those. Michael Schnell, are zippers particularly difficult? Not necessarily, but trying to do zippers without a zipper foot can be, and switch, like, I don't really like switching around feet all that much, although I do know people who just primarily sew with their zipper foot because they can get really tight and close, but you can't do fancy stitches because the way the foot is. But they're not particularly difficult. There's a lot of steps involved in them depending on how you want to do a zipper, because you're closing and opening. So do you want it to have a little flap behind it like a fly? Do you want it to meet up? Do you want a flap in the front of it covering it up? Do we want that invisible zipper? Do we want the zipper featured as a feature, so it's like showing off the zipper? So there's a lot of different techniques in putting in zippers and how you want to, if you want to see it, whether you don't want to see it. And then, so a lot of that can be in the patterning phase of how you use a zipper. It's not particularly complicated, but it can get complicated really quickly. But it's a great closure, so that's why we keep using it. Anyway, top stitching. I'm back to doing that. Yes, remember to breathe, Felicia. Yes, breathing's important. I am going to start ever so slightly back here, and then too close to the edge? Nah, I think we are fine. I like it. So now that I'm kind of have all of these 3 layers together and they're sewn and they're starting to act like one cape, I think I might go in at the shoulders and tack all 3 layers together with a hand chain stitch so that they're not exactly like stuck so they can't move, so there's a little wiggle room, but that they don't go far off from each other. I think that will help in the behavior of the cape. Here's a word of advice. So when we're sewing with thick fabrics and bulky seams, sometimes we get stuck, okay? I allow 2 stitches max being stuck in one spot without the feed dogs throwing me forward. Any more than that, you're starting to put too much thread into your bobbin, and you're going to get tangles. You're going to fight your machine, and then you actually might bend or damage your sewing machine. So when I start to get in a tricky situation, instead of forcing the fabric and pulling really tight and making it, you know what I mean? Like, really like just trying to it. I only give myself 2 stitches, 3 if I miss it, but 2 stitches, put the needle up, physically lift up the foot, take the step forward, try 2 more stitches, the feed dog should catch it. If it doesn't, lift it up, get it past the bulky spot, and then continue on. You do not have to just, you can take it, lift it up, and stop, because if you take it slow through the really chunky parts, it's going to be easier if you have to rip them out. But also, you're not getting that big buildup of tangled threads underneath your bobbin. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's not your fault, I promise, but taking the time sometimes just to... It's bulky. It's okay. Turn it off. Turn it on again. We're going back to the same stitch length. Yeah, it got right at a bulky seam. Right where these fabrics are, all my seam allowance is pushed to this side when I ironed this one, so it's a little bit bulkier in the seam. And right as I was telling you about that, it's like, nope. But I didn't get all tangled in the bobbin because you stop, you lift it up, and you take it over. What, Bruno? Come on, up. Come say hi. This is the Bruno show, and he's gonna take it from here, okay? Oh, you have dog food breath. Go, babe. Okay, let me get my little thread snippers. Snip those threads, because they are not... Sir, you know I'm live right now. No, you don't? Okay. All done. You're a good boy. Okay. I need to cut this. Bruno, I just cut the silk. I nicked it. All right. Look how flat these seams are. Granted, it's supposed to be on a cone, and it's going to be closed, and it's going to be cone shaped. It's going to be cone shaped, it's going to be closed. But look how nice these lay and how pretty they are. They were all bulky and crazy, and now they lay flat and nice. Big difference. Ironing, it makes a huge difference. Okay. So the next step is doing the double placket, double welted, I wouldn't call it placket, but holes, armholes for the cape. And I'll do that next. Oh, I'm not going to be live next week. I will be doing it the following week after that. Next week I have a big project, so I will not be able to go live. All right, Bruno. I will see you after the live stream. I'm almost done, okay? Go play. Go get your ball. Go get your ball. But, sorry. Yes, Michael Snell, having a pet means living life on a higher difficulty. Or sewing on a, yes. Sewing with Bruno. He likes to help. He really does. He's good company. I even forgot what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. Next week, I will not be able to go live, but I will be back the following week after that, back on Tuesdays. Yes, and we'll be putting in the slits, and then all the technical parts of the cape will be almost done, and we can actually start on the fun part of adding all the crazy bits to the world. So, making progress, things are going better, and I hope you guys appreciate how much pressing makes a difference in your sewing. So, thank you guys for all the good questions, for joining me, for being active participants in this live stream. And I will see you guys not next week, but the following week on Tuesday. Bye. And I love you, James. All right, bye.